even though we're talking about Silvopasture here, actually what Sally asked me to do was just share my mistakes from a number of years, having put this system in, really around the sort of tree management and maintenance, things you need to think about. So we've got, as I say, 52 hectare, 125 acre agroforestry system. All the trees in this case are fruit trees, apple trees, and we're growing cereal crops in between on a 24 metre alley system. So one of the things that I had to think about when we set this up was what we're going to do in this strip beneath the tree canopy. In this scenario, we planted everything with a pollen nectar rich species, and we used 3 different mixtures across the tree rows. So the management of that's quite important to start with. That's part of our high-level stewardship, so we have to manage that as maintaining a constant pollen source through the season, which means mowing part of it early seasons, leaving part of it, and then going back and mowing it all in the late autumn. So you might want to think about how you manage an understory. For some it might be grazing it, for some it might be planting specific species, for some it might be actually be using a herbicide, but that wouldn't be my preference. So they do change, the understory does change over a decade period as the trees grow, as there's a bit more shade. The legumes and the flowers tend to change in species composition. The grasses which weren't planted creep in, so you need to think about not only how you manage things, but how you manage things over a successional time. I guess the next lesson or mistake, this picture is a couple of years old and the trees are a fair bit bigger now. They're 10 years old now. When they went in, they were literally sort of a 1 metre width, sort of feathered maiden, about a metre tall, just with a few leaves on. And we planted them with a, as you can see here, a wooden post, 60mm diameter machine wooden post, and then like Richard, I'm not a great fan of plastic, but we planted them with a wire mesh guard, and also we actually put a 1 metre square mulched mat underneath each tree, because I was told the same thing, that weeds are going to be an issue, etc. I did hunt around at the time for jute and textiles and natural degradable stuff. In the end, I actually used a Mypex sheet, 1 metre sheet under each tree. Now that's worked really well. The Mypex worked really well in the first few years, well, now it's become a liability. And partly because it doesn't degrade, and every time you try and mow something, the mower likes to chew it up, so it becomes a management issue. But the bigger issue is actually you creating a lovely, nice, warm, dry environment for shrews and voles to live under. And the main damage we've seen from trees has been rodents eating out root balls. So what seemed like a good idea from a weed control, I don't think I would probably do again, because of the latent damage that you get from these small mammals living in the tree grass. The plus side is you get all these all these small mammals, which the barn owls love. So there are pluses and minuses all the time, because the barn owls hunt up and down these tree rows because there are lots of small mammals. So pluses and minuses. One of the mistakes I think was planting 4,500 trees on a budget, and one of the biggest costs is the wooden post. And I wish I'd spent more money on much higher quality wooden posts, because after 3 or 4 years, 50% of these had rotten and snapped.
What sort of wood would you use then?
I'd probably go chestnut, I think. I did, even though I'm not a fan of plastic, I actually did look at recycled plastic posts, because actually they've got quite a lot of give in them with the wind. They flex a bit, but I couldn't find a decent supply at a decent cost, which seemed madness.
That's not expensive,
They're massively expensive, but I would have thought of a 50-60mm diameter recycled wooden post. I could buy a bench to sit on, but I couldn't buy the post from the tree. Would seem an ideal thing, because they wouldn't rot.
You can get them now, but they are expensive.
And there's an opportunity there for somebody.
So these trees are semi-dwarf?
Semi-dwarf, yeah.
So shouldn't need restaking, should they? Or is
No,
that because you've got high wind?
Yeah, 10 years on, and we are in a windy environment, and it was just to get the trees established. I think probably after about year 7 or 8, they didn't even post anyhow. It was just that first few years. And now you could then go back and take the plastic posts out and actually.
Have you thought about what you're going to do when the trees need replacing?
Yeah, so we've probably lost about, I was going to come to that in a second, but we've probably lost about 5 or 6% from root ball eating and maybe the other ones that's fallen over or somebody's driven into. And it could be similar if you had livestock damage. We're already gapping up, and I think over the lifetime of these trees is about 25 years, and there are some varieties which will be longer and some will be smaller in rotation, and we'll replace those probably in single lines. So rather than losing the whole field, we'll just replace a single line and replant.
On the same strip?
It's on the same strip, and we could probably do that. These are 3 metres apart, and we could probably interplant in between the trees, So better quality posts, really important. And what you'll notice here is you've got a post and a bamboo cane here. I hadn't anticipated planting 4,500 roosting posts for pigeons. In an open environment, when you've got a young tree and one pigeon comes along and lands on your whip, that's not a problem. When 2 of his mates come to keep him company, the tree bends and then snaps a foot at the top. So we had quite a lot of damage. We probably damaged 1,000 trees out of 4,000, so about 20-25% from pigeon damage. And we went back in, just put a 10-foot bamboo cane in, and then the pigeons roost on the top. Because they always roost on the highest point. And I should have done that from day one.
Will you consider planting a different species in between each tree or not?
Yeah. I mean, I should have said we planted fruit because we're tenants. I don't own the farm, so our farm business tenancy is 15 years. I need an economic return within that 15-year period, which is one of the reasons wind erosion is a big problem. We wanted effectively a productive hedge. That gives us that, planted north-south with prevailing southwesterly wind to protect the soils, but it gives us an economic return from the fruit, which we sell, we retail, and also make juice from. And the fruit really was the driver because of our tenancy arrangement. I've been re-signed for another 15 years, so you couldn't plan to make the farm so complicated they can't make it left to anybody else. But I think if I owned it, I'd be looking at a broader range of species, some timber and probably some nuts as well. But that wasn't within our gift of the tenancy arrangement though. So think about quality of posts, think about bird management, pest management. We actually had to go in, we put a wire mesh guard, I suppose about 18 inches tall around each tree. We had to go back and put another mesh guard because the hares are as big as Labradors and they were climbing over the top and nibbling, so there was that sort of issue. And then you mentioned about the Shumi pruning. One of the decisions for all arborists or farmers is how I prune the trees. We have to make sure that we get a decent height in the main stem, and that's came fairly clean, so we can get our machinery alongside, so the canopy's high enough, so we can get our machinery underneath. And then the question was, do we actually A-frame it and actually prune it so it's in an A-frame, or do we prune it in a goblet? And in the end we went for a goblet, because the idea of pruning is to get as much light into the canopy, as much light and deception as possible, and that's what we chose to go with, rightly or wrongly. But that seems to have worked quite well. From a management point of view, it actually fits our farming business quite well, because most of our farming activity is during the spring and summer, and actually most of the tree management is harvesting late autumn, and the tree pruning is all winter. So we can discuss these things more as we go outside, but those are our sort of lessons. I guess the only other thing, which is a salient lesson, was that we did put new gates on every gateway in every field, because we were a bit concerned in new planting the trees are going to end up on the local market. We did have 2 fields completely scrumped in one night of all the fruit stolen in about year 4, and the only remnant that we found was a load of plastic carrier bags where they parked a couple of transit vans up and come and stolen all the apples. I actually wanted to rehire them because, by Christ, they were good pickers. But yeah, those are the kind of things you don't necessarily anticipate. I'll stop there and we can chat further.
Yeah.